Greetings, your city manager Seth Sumner here with your daily COVID-19 update. It's Monday, April 27th, and this marks the 43rd day since we've started first reporting to you on COVID-19. 43 days ago, we had our first video to talk about this pandemic, and that's just hard for me to believe. Today, unfortunately, marks an even worse turn in our numbers than I reported yesterday. I'll get to that in a second. Let's look at the overall state of Tennessee Department of Health data that just came out at 3 p.m. today. We're showing 9,918 Tennesseans testing COVID positive, 184 deaths. That is 184 Tennesseans have lost their life to COVID-19. And you can see we're still waiting on some of this data to come back from tests that occurred during this period. But you can see that one large spike. And remember last week, just a few days ago, we were looking at flattening of the curve. We were looking at this actually being a flat line in here. And now you can see it continuing to trend up based on the data that we're continuing to collect. We have 837, that's a little bit too fast, 837 Tennesseans have been hospitalized from COVID-19. 5,465 that have not needed to use those hospital resources, which is a good thing. Fully recovered, we're looking at 48%. Now remember, this was 52% just a few days ago. It is now 48% because we're seeing cases go up, and they will go up. We expected some of that. We'll get to McMinn County in a second. But 4,720 Tennesseans recovered from COVID-19. You can see not much changed here on average age and maximum age. Deceased, still at 2% of those infected have died from COVID complications, and that is 184 Tennesseans losing their life. Laboratory tests and state public health labs, private and public labs, 154,000 tests. That number continues to skyrocket, and we want that to go up. You don't have to have the symptoms to get a test. Right now, the important thing that we're hearing from the Department of Health and from the Governor's office is that Tennesseans get tested. We just heard in a press conference the Department of Health, they are working on rolling out antibody tests. Right now, some of the antibody tests that are on the market are returning too high of a number of false positives. So we certainly don't want, we want these things to be as accurate as possible. And so these antibody tests that they're working on rolling out in the days and maybe weeks ahead for where we need that level of accuracy, and to see the history if someone has had COVID-19 and maybe fully recovered without it being in any of our data so far. So that is coming out. Now let's scroll down to McMinn County. McMinn County, we have still 4 fully recovered, 65 COVID positive persons. 65. That is an increase of 51 positive tests since yesterday. This is by far the greatest increase that we've seen. By far. 65. We have now more COVID positive persons than Bradley County. By far any of the surrounding counties around us. And that is now out of 921 tests. Now, I know there's been a lot of chatter, a lot of folks talking about long-term care facilities. We know that these are potentially vulnerable, and that is why the governor has assigned a task force to help mitigate those cases in long-term I'm sorry, I'll get this right. Long-term care facilities. There is a plan in place to help with those facilities, and so they are working hand in hand with those largely privately owned facilities. But we are able to tell you what you largely already know, that one of our long-term care facilities here in Athens has been identified as a cluster. Now, if you scroll down on tn.gov through the health department data, if you scroll down here, it will not show all of the positives from that facility. We're talking about life care here. It will not show in that data, but it is showing in our 65 here on screen, which I lost track of right there. 65 positive tests in McMinn County, and we do believe that that is largely a result of a cluster at one long-term care facility. And so you can tell I'm struggling with this. That is a lot of McMinn Countyans infected. And what we know about that vulnerable population is that our data is showing that 1 in 3 dies. 1 in 3 dies with COVID-19. My prayers are with those people and their families. We have healthcare workers on the front line. We have the patients that are involved in this and their families. Now, largely they've been isolated from their families and they've not been able to have personal contact with them. But somehow this COVID-19 has spread in a facility, and we see our numbers skyrocketing, but because of that cluster. Let's lift those folks up in our prayers. This is difficult. This is hard for Athens. This is hard for McMinn County. I do know that there are plans in place with that facility. They are working diligently with their staff through their corporate office to make sure that they are taking care of those COVID positive persons, and they have separated the well patients and made sure that they are isolated in different sections of the facility. They have stepped up their deep cleaning. They're making sure that that is even done at a faster pace than normally they're required. They are having further screenings of staff and folks that are going in and out of that facility, which is drastically limited. We know that they're working because they don't want to lose a staff person, they don't want to lose a patient, that they are being diligent and working with the Department of Health to take every precaution to protect those people and hopefully see them fully recover. Let's pray for that. Let me turn my attention now to a couple other things I wanted to mention to you. One of those being, Brandon, if you want to join me. We've got Chief Ainsworth here with me. We asked, and mind, this would normally have gloves on, but just the spur of the moment, a few minutes ago, we asked one of our firefighters to suit up in a Tyvek suit. This is how our firefighters are going to be responding to certain calls. If we know that there is COVID positive persons at an address, this is how we're going to be greeting somebody at the door. If we don't see flames and smoke, we're going to go make sure that it is an emergency, and it'll be a single firefighter fully suited in Tyvek to protect his health and the health of the people where we're responding, and all of our firefighters and first responders. Chief Ainsworth, would you like to share some more about our protocols that we are enacting now?
Yes, sir. So, as he said, we are making a few changes to our approach. Dispatch is working diligently to also help us making sure we're getting information on the front end. So we may show up and look like this. This is not our everyday attire that we wear. You may notice once the call's over, we could be rinsing the individual down to decon them before they get back in the apparatus. So we're taking these extra precautions to make sure we're protecting ourselves, our patient, our fellow workers, whether it be EMS, law enforcement, fire, any of those. We've got to make sure we keep ourselves healthy and ready to respond to help those in need. So don't be alarmed if you see this particular attire. Our police department will also be utilizing this service. And depending upon the numbers and how things progress, we may have to make changes later on down the road, but this is a step that we're going to take right now just to better protect ourselves, our equipment, and our facilities.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Chief. And so, if anyone out there, if you've called 911 and you see the fire truck and then knock on the door and you see somebody that looks like this in a Tyvek suit, they are a firefighter. Talk to them, make sure they understand what's going on, and so they can assess the center and then report back to those firefighters who are still on the truck and whether they need to engage in any kind of emergency response or otherwise. They'll make that determination on the scene. So I appreciate you looking out for the health and safety of all people and especially taking this extra step to make sure that everyone's health is protected during this time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And next I wanted to show you, now just underneath this post right now, you'll see another post that will have this on there for you to share. And I want to be very clear with you. The City of Athens does not have any requirements. The City of Athens does not have any orders in place. We lack the authority to put meaningful orders in place dealing with reopening our economy. What we're using is local business people. We're using Main Street Athens. We're using the Council Advisory Committee and folks throughout our community to get their take on the Athens approach, the Athenian and McMinn County approach to the Tennessee Pledge, which was rolled out by Governor Bill Lee last week. We saw that. We talked a little bit about that. I went through some of the guidelines. And what we know is Phase 1 is occurred today. Today begins Phase 1 with reopening restaurants for dine-in at 50% capacity and other guidelines that we went through last week. Wednesday, we're able to reopen retail shops. And this is under the state of Tennessee's plan, which we absolutely fall under, the city and the county, both going under advisement through Governor Bill Lee's plan for reopening. But we're adding an Athenian touch to it. And so this is our Athens Economic Recovery Team in action, putting Phase 1 and letting you have this graphic so you can share it and know that it is from a trusted source. We did see over the weekend that there are some graphics that are going around that may be only for a certain community, but it never said that. It never said that it was just for Nashville or Davidson County. It said Tennessee Pledge. What we want to make sure is that you know that this is legitimate, that this is from a true and trusted source, your local government, the Friendly City. You have our logos, Main Street Athens, McMinn County Economic Development Authority, and McMinn County itself. And so you see our sills and logos at the top of this, and it tells you what community this is, Athens. So you know this is just for us. This is just for our use. And so if this gets shared in Bradley County, then they know that this is just Athens and McMinn County and how we're doing it. So we've rolled out Phase 1. We want you to follow and make sure that you know that more phases are coming. We know we need to talk about churches, reopening churches. we want to talk about reopening hair salons, and y'all can tell I am really getting the shag on right here. Need to get a trim, but I can't yet. And so those will come out in subsequent phases over the next few days and the next few weeks. And we will update and create new slides for your convenience to make sure that you get this good information and you can share it with other Athenians and McMinn Countyans. This does have the caveats that we talked about as far as wearing the face masks. We are still under a stay-at-home order until April 30th. We are to stay at home until April 30th. If it's not an essential trip, you should not be doing it. Think about it before you get out, riding the roads, going to a store. Think about whether you actually really need to do that, if it is essential for your health and welfare. And as much as I was stressing, and I think you could tell in my demeanor yesterday, it was really affecting me to see that increase. I'm just absolutely shocked. We said 65 COVID positive persons in McMinn County right now. Take this serious. Wear your face mask if you must get out. But if you don't have to get out, don't leave the house. We have to recover from this. The only way we get there is together. We're in this together, folks. You and me and all of us doing our part by staying apart. Make sure that we keep our social distancing, keep that in place. Using proper hygiene. I know that you are doing a tremendous job, and most of you still are, doing a tremendous job at taking those guidelines from the CDC, from the White House, and from our own state government, and abiding in those things. That you are keeping clean, that you are socially distancing, you were taking that serious. And so we really did see very few positive tests in our county. And now we have a cluster in one facility. We don't know right now. I have been unable to confirm myself that the 51 cases that we see right now are from that facility. We cannot, I have not had that confirmed to me yet. So the important thing here is continue testing. You can get your test 9 a.m. to noon free of charge at the health department here in McMinn County. Please do that. You don't have to have symptoms. Get tested. What we do know that from our testing, from our 334 that we had tested Sunday before, from all of those tests that we're seeing come through, they're largely negative. And so it really is alarming to see this many positive tests come back at one time. We know in that facility that they did test aggressively over the weekend, and so there is a high likelihood that within that 51 number, that accounts for a majority of that, if not all. But we have not been able to have that confirmed. But our Athens Economic Recovery Team is wanting to make sure that we've got a local personal touch on reopening our businesses, because that is the advisement that we have from Governor Bill Lee and the state of Tennessee, and we have to abide in that as a local government under their jurisdiction. We've persevered by staying at home and maintaining our distance. That's what we're going to keep doing. We encourage all citizens to stay informed and respectful of our neighbors. Make sure that we're not the cause of someone else catching COVID. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering again. We don't want to be the cause of someone else catching COVID-19 because we may be asymptomatic. Get tested, keep your distance. We hope that you continue to patronize our local businesses, but still, use curbside, use pickup, use drive-through. Call ahead, drive through, pick it up. Please be very cautious if you're considering going into a place to dine or shop. Please be very cautious about your health and the health of others. Wear face masks. Make sure that you socially distance yourself from other people. Take care of yourself, and in turn, we take care of everybody else. So stay tuned for the next phases. You can look and share just below this video. This graphic is posted. Share that throughout McMinn County so our folks know that this is coming from a trusted source, that this is real, and that we are abiding in what our governor has asked us to do. And last but not least, as I looked at it, looked at you yesterday, we came together, had a very heartfelt moment, I believe. We have nothing if we don't have our health, folks. We can't work, we can't provide for our family if we don't have our health. What we're doing and will continue doing on into the future is protecting our and protecting your health. That's what this is about. We've got to slow this pandemic, but it's not going away. It's not going away. We don't have a vaccine. There's no cure right now. The best that we can do is keep from getting it. And you know exactly how to do it. And I'm so proud of Athenians for doing exactly that. Athens and McMinn County has stepped up, and you're doing your part to take care of yourself and your family and your neighbors. We've talked about all the various resources that we have available to you if you are in need right now. Make sure you call on those places and you get help if you need it. Call on our state government. Tell them what your needs are. Utilize their resources. We want to take care of you, and we want to get through this. There's going to be a bright day ahead. There's going to be fewer deaths. There's going to be a day with 0 deaths. That's what we're looking forward to celebrating with you. There's going to be a day that we can come back together and we can play. We can go to the splash pad. We can reopen the playgrounds. But it's not today. There's going to be a time where we can play baseball and soccer and basketball. But it's not today. Let's look forward and keep the promise of tomorrow. And we know the only way that we can get there is by being responsible, practicing good hygiene, continuing to socially distance ourselves, and by taking care of our neighbors in need without coming in close contact with them. This is on you. It's on me. It's on all of us to do our part to protect our friends, our families, and our neighbors. We'll see you back here tomorrow. May God bless you. May God bless Athens. And we lift up those 51 souls who've come down with COVID positive that we see in our numbers today. We pray for their recovery, full recovery. Be safe, Athens.